Hi there, traders. This is Brad Goodwin with the FX Market Insight for Tuesday, the 8th of October. All right, now as we come into the just the start of the Asian session here, it's a good time to obviously tune yourself up for the next 24 hours of trading. Now, what have we got as the core market conditions? Well, at the moment, we do have normal market, calm markets, and that's because we're waiting for these core market drivers to really come into play. Now, all of these things are in the headlines at the moment, and I expect them to continue. Trump impeachment proceedings, well, that's gathering a bit of momentum because now a New York federal judge has come out and said Trump has got to provide the last 7 or 8 years of tax returns, and that could uncover a whole bag of like evil in there. Brexit heading towards that 31st of October deadline, and the China-US trade talks is underway apparently with a tense atmosphere. Now, this is where you can really get misled by the news somewhat. Now, if you're looking at the news, dollar firms as traders look to trade talks. Now, the dollar index itself is up about 10 or 15 points, which, you know what, you wouldn't even usually comment on it. So they're struggling for news, and it's because the geopolitical situations are dominating. Right now, as pressure builds on Trump domestically, I think he's going to start throwing barbs internationally to deflect that domestic focus. So picking fights with Turkey is going to work. Really blowing out those trade talks with China is going to work for him as well. As I said, the proceedings against Trump are, as I said, gathering momentum. So that's what we're going to deal with at the moment. Now, when you come back to look at, let me just have a look at the charts. Once again, this is what we're seeing. We're seeing sporadic movement in the majors, and then we are starting to see them trade sideways. Now, Aussie and Kiwi have been cruising to the downside as they've cut rates. We see this rally back towards resistance, which I sort of focused on yesterday. We're sort of getting back to levels which were good sell zones. That move down in dollar yen, a bit of a safe haven play on the back of all these geopolitical things coming together. Bit of an unwind of that, and that's sort of, to me, back in the range. Euro. Well, to me, Euro's going down, but it's very similar to the Aussie and Kiwi. It's come back towards resistance, 110 the figure, where it stopped yesterday. Looks like the place to be selling, if not the next resistance level. It is now currently trading sideways, and we are waiting more information from the fundamentals, whether this goes up or down. To me, fundamentally, Euro goes down, but it's this mixed US dollar sentiment, which is really confusing things. And that's where we have sterling now trading sideways through that support line. It's pretty hard to get short when you know this thing's just flying all over the place. And after that move early last week, you've now got dollar CAD just trading sideways, and oil looks like it's found a bit of a base there at 52.90. So that's where we are on the currency. So if I bring you back to the MyFX Trading Hub, you'll see the analysis. And what we're starting to get is, once again, you've got to be patient. The hourly trend lines, where all the noise is and the general moves, are all pretty much neutral now. They're all just drifting sideways. Weekly trends, well, we just still have a few, but we need the daily and the hourly trends to come into play before we can really rip in. And where are they going to come from? Well, it's quite simple. This is where the upcoming fundamental drivers really come into play here. Okay, upcoming FX major events. So the US PPI, Fed Chairman Powell speaking. That's pretty much all we've got to look at today. There are a few other peripheral releases. And if I just run you through the sort of general outlook here of what's coming out, we do have a few things, right? So if you're desperate, right, and you shouldn't be desperate when you're trading, the NAB business conditions, really low tier data, but I have seen that move the market with huge variance. We've got some services data out of China, and then you've got some employment numbers out of Switzerland, which I wouldn't really rate at all. Industrial output out of Germany, that's well worth a look. We had some weaker factory orders yesterday. It moved Euro down about 20 points before it came back. And then also the housing starts out of Canada. But the real focus to me is anything to do with inflation in the US is important, especially with US CPI on Thursday. The PPI is a bit of a first look at some of those inflation numbers. So make sure you check that out. And that's where I think the focus will be. So there's peripheral numbers. Obviously, with the My FX Trading Hub, we only really focus on the medium to high impacting numbers, so you don't get sort of too caught up. And don't forget, we've got the FOMC minutes coming out tomorrow. That may be enough to keep the market on hold at this stage, unless we get something tangible out of Powell, or we see some big variance in the US PPI. Right, that's where the focus is. All right, guys, this is really, as I said, we're going through pockets of where we got clear direction, and this is a situation where it goes back to neutral, and you have to be patient to wait for the market. There's no need to be trying to push the markets around at this stage. All right, guys, all the best with your trading today. Cheerio.